I don't want to see Derek carry on no more. If he's talking about Daniel Dubois, Anthony Joshua, they're massive punches, and I just think they're all wrong for him. It was more how good he was that surprised me. His natural ability was more the eye-opener for me.
If you were to see the opportunity being presented to Eubank Jr., which he would take with Canelo, how would you see that fight?
He's miles and miles and miles apart from Canelo Alvarez.
But if you got offered a fight against Logan or whatever, you would jump at that, right?
I would jump at it because I would just think, wow, that's easy money. Who knocks Chris Eubank Jr. out, who's never been knocked out before, and fights him again for less money?
Welcome to episode 107 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. This week, we're joined by one of the sporting dynasty, one of my favourite boxing families, the Smith family. Liam Smith joins us this week. Nice to see you, Liam.
Thanks
for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Spence, let's start the show with obviously the event that happened on the weekend, which is Derek Chisora's fight against Otto Wallin. A lot of noise made about the performance. Derek puts on his usual performance in terms of
heroic, if you like.
Yeah.
I mean, you got listen. Whatever way you want to paint it up, and I know you've been critical of Derek in the past, and I'm interested to hear your views on the performance actually. But being there, being live, you know, watching the fight and watching it unfold, I just look at that and go like, he's 41 years of age. He's having his 49th fight, and you look down his resume, you go, the amount of times he's actually gone the distance and, you know, grinded it out and been on the end of the wrong result. You look at that and just watch him. He starts off and he does his usual, starting quite slow and coming in there, winging the shots away. But he's got this resilience, and he finds something from somewhere. And you can't help be entertained in that. I mean, I was entertained. I don't know what you think.
Look, I haven't been critical of Derek. What I was critical of not wanting to watch.
Oh, you have?
No, I didn't.
Oh, come on.
No, I didn't.
Oh, leave it.
No, I didn't.
Must have heard him being critical.
No, I didn't.
He was driving around the News UK building.
No, I didn't. What I said was, every time you fight at world level, you get beat. And he says, well, what's world level? I said, the one that beats you every time you step up to it, which is a statement of fact. It's not criticism. And I didn't want to see the third Dillian Whyte fight because I'd seen it twice before, so it didn't particularly appeal to me. That's not criticism, it's just an observation. So as far as the fight was concerned, it was what Derek Chisora does. Somehow or another, Otto Wallin's been built up into being some really formidable fighter because once upon a time, he gave Tyson Fury a bit of a test. Other than that, he's done all, quite frankly. And whilst I give Derek Chisora all the kudos in the world for the manner in which he fights, I don't look at that fight and say, oh, it was fight of the year, like Paul Dempsey was saying from TNT, and this big barrage of wonderful outpouring of sentiments. But that's my view. Liam, where were you on the fight? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was just a typical Derek Chisora performance. You know, I'm of the magnitude, I don't want to see Derek carry on no more.
Don't you?
No, I don't. I love Derek. I've been a massive fan of him for a number of years now, but he's nowhere near the Derek Chisora of old. I actually thought Wallin might still have enough to beat him because I think Derek's not a patch on what he was. Look, he's a crazy arcade.
Even off the back of a decent win against Joe Joyce.
No, even the Joe Joyce fight, I just think it was like a finished Derek Chisora. I think his balance was shot to bits a little bit, and I mean this with the greatest respect to him. I think he's earned a ton loads of money over the years for being a tough, solid game heavyweight, but ability-wise now I think he should start to calling it a day because one of the ones mentioned we've seen tragic things happen in boxing, and I think, you know, he's talking about Daniel Dubois, Anthony Joshua, they're massive punches, and I just think they're all wrong for him at this stage of his career.
But this argument rages, isn't it? And about Derek, and obviously you see fighters over the years, and you make the point, Liam, and I was listening to some interviews with Evander Holyfield the other day and Michael Spinks, and I'm listening to these guys that have had lots of fights and been in big fights, and they don't sound together. And of course, then you look at Derek now, and Derek is a very different animal off camera than he is inside the ring. But there is a concern that people keep voicing about his desire to go on. The flip side of that argument is that Derek only in the latter part of his career has started to earn the dough, and has often always felt that he was maligned, left on the side, didn't get verdicts that he should have got, and didn't get paid what he could have got. So if he's not worried, then why should others be worried on his behalf?
It's an interesting one because I asked Derek, and I'm with you, Liam, right? I said to Derek, after the Joe Parker defeat, and it was a heroic performance again, he gave it everything.
Yeah.
It was a great fight, you know, but it was a punishing fight for him.
Yeah.
So I rang him the next morning and said, listen, mate, you know, you've been a great servant to the sport. You've earned a few quid. I think it's now time to get out. He said, was you entertained? I went, of course I was entertained. He said, did you enjoy the fight? I went, yeah. He went, how do you think I fought? I went, you was heroic, mate. I thought you boxed really well. He went, you've answered your own question.
Yeah.
I'm still there. I'm still delivering. And this is the argument that he does have, Simon, is that you look at him and he's going in against these fighters, Joe Joyce, Otto Wallin, you know, coming off those wins. Gerald Washington as well, that he'd boxed and won. He's won his last 3. You look at it and you go, he's still competing, still delivering. He's now IBF number 2, so he's going to continue fighting. And you know what I mean? It's like you say, like, we look at it and go, what's the long-term effect?
Yeah.
You know, at what cost? 10 years' time, you know, how are you going to be? Is it going to take its
I think that's where he needs closer people too, Spencer, though. I think he needs family members, close friends. You need somebody who tells you straight. And I said before, I feel a lot of people, because it's Derek and because of he's got his crazy ways about him, I think a lot of people are a little bit scared to say to him, no, it's time now, Derek, you're done. Nobody really wants to keep seeing you in these type fights.
But the problem is the fans do.
Yeah.
And the fans are giving him send-offs. There's a national outpouring, or certainly an outpouring of great love and affection for Derek, which hasn't always been the case.
He's always been that lovable role type, and he's always like...
Certainly in recent times, he has.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And
I just think you look at the performances in recent times and people know what they're going to get. It is what it says on the tin. You go see Derek Chisora, you know you're going to get a fight, and whether that's a heroic performance where he gets beat or he wins, you know you're going to get some sort of... And that's what people pay them. I mean, we're in Manchester, the Co-op Live Arena. 15,000 people must have been there, absolutely packed. It was a brilliant night, but they were just loving Derek Chisora, and you go, he wants that homecoming now, Simon, and he's talking about a stadium fight. My argument is, if you have a stadium fight, you have to box a big name. Do you really want that on your 50th fight?
Where you touch upon it in the broadest of terms, but this national treasure idea, I mean, is that not a bit overboard?
Well, national treasure in the boxing community. Let's say that in the boxing world. No, it's not overboard. I think that he's earned that right now. I think that you got to give him that. You look at the list. He's boxed a who's who.
Yeah,
he's never avoided anyone, and the performances, he gives it everything. You cannot say that.
No, I agree.
And I go, so that term national treasure, he has become a national treasure, not in the wider society, but within the boxing fraternity, they love him, and I think that he's gone from that Marmite sort of character, 50-50, love him, hate him type thing, where people now just looking at him going, you know what, I'm really appreciating what he's giving the sport.
He always turns up, no matter what, you know what you're going to get with him. He always turns up.
There's an honesty and
gonna
integrity about what he does.
Yes, there is, yeah.
I mean, you caught up with him on Saturday night with your Uncle John. Let's have a listen to what Derek himself had to say.
John, Joe Smythe, they're not here. You know, your dad as well. You know, Sean Murphy. Other trainers have gone away, have passed away. And I thank them very much for getting that black boy, an African boy in the gym, and showing him to try the first jab, the right hand and stuff like that. Guess what? We're going back to London. I'll sell out Tottenham. So by end of this year, I'm going to do Tottenham.
Give me a name.
I'm going to phone Alexander and see if we're going to do it.
You want Alexander Usyk?
Alexander Usyk, yeah.
If that doesn't materialise, Del, who would be your number 2 choice?
Why do you want to fight him again for?
I think I won that fight.
Do away of any heavyweight in this country. Whether you've lost 13 or 14.
You want me to fight Anthony?
Down to me, is it? It's not down to me.
You know what? We'll see what happens. I see AJ will be fighting end of the year. So right now, we'll see.
Would you put that friendship aside, Del, and go in there with AJ to give the British fans that fight?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I'll speak to him first.
Listen,
I want to see it.
would you want to see it?
I would not want to see AJ and you.
It might not happen. I want Alexander right now.
You brought your uncle into the conversation, and I know that Derek brought him to the event in the evening.
Yeah, he did.
And actually even paid for something, didn't he?
He actually paid for a chauffeur to take him up the hotel and back. I mean, it's a first for Derek Chisora. But I think what Derek was doing there was, he said it was his last fight on British soil. That was his intentions going into the fight. And I think because my Uncle John trained Derek from the beginning up until when he turned professional, he wanted him as part of that journey. It was like his final fight, final farewell. So that it was nice. I thought it was a nice touch.
Well, I mean, when he talks about fighting Usyk, Obviously, a lot of people made a lot of noise out of Derek's performance against Usyk and suggested that might be the blueprint for how the other heavyweights should have fought Usyk in terms of smothering it, making it difficult for him and using their size. Is going a bit too far suggesting that Usyk's going to fight him again, isn't he?
No, I don't think he is. I think, look, Alexander Usyk is the outstanding heavyweight of this generation for sure. But you go, Derek's argument is, well, I'll give him as good a fight as anyone has. And he has. And I think what Derek done that the others haven't done, when he boxed Anthony Joshua was meant to take the fight to him and try to box him.
Yeah.
Fury done the same.
Yeah.
And Derek didn't. He just rolled the dice and does what he does. I mean, so where do you stand on that?
I 100% agree. Chisora probably given the best and toughest night at the end of a fight. The Fury fight was a good tough fight, but you were getting Usyk at the right time, maybe dipping his toe into the heavyweights. He was picked Chisora probably as a safe bet, as in, am I big enough for these heavyweights? I think now if you're getting me, he do well to land a glove on Usyk. I think Usyk knows he's a big and solid enough heavyweight now. He's been in with Anthony Joshua twice, been in with Tyson Fury twice. And I think Usyk and Chisora now is a long way off, in my opinion.
So your old dance partner, Canelo Alvarez, signed a 4-fight deal with Turki Alalshikh. I think that's quite a significant move, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's when you see what Turki Alalshikh's doing in boxing, if Canelo keeps wanting to add to his legacy, I think it looks as everything seems to be going through the Turki Alalshikh route and the Riyadh season route. And if anybody's going to make Canelo Alvarez against, Terence Crawford's and better be Evan Bivol and, all the fights that people have wanted to see, if anybody's going to make them, it seems to be Turki Alalshikh. So it seems to be the right move for Canelo, and it seems to be exciting one if we're going to get Canelo Crawford.
Well, it appears that he's scheduled to fight Crawford in September, but first out of the gate is William Skull on May the 3rd. Now, most people would look at that and say, is that particularly an exciting fight against Skull first?
Yeah, no, I don't think it is. It was meant to happen. I think it's probably a fight that can be made. I think is it Canelo, one of Canelo's mandatories?
Yeah, Skull.
The IBF or something.
Skull is the IBF champion.
Sorry, yeah, he was mandatory for the IBF title when Canelo had it.
Yeah.
Canelo gave it up. Skull's won it. Is it just a fight to make Canelo look good, to build the buzz then for him and Crawford in September? Is it a safe bet option for Canelo just to announce he's on the Riyadh season?
I think Canelo's looking to become undisputed again, and I think that is by picking up that IBF. He's already got the WBA, the WBC, WBO, I think it is. He owns 2 of the belts anyway. He's trying to get that IBF, and I think that's the idea, to be undisputed again. Skull is a decent fighter, by the way. He's a Cuban, unbeaten, quick hand, southpaw, but unknown to the wider public. So that's a dangerous fight for Canelo going into that. Perhaps I think I'm looking at it going, is it styles? Like, stylistically, this kid's quick and it prepares him for Terence Crawford going in. You could take that into account as well. But it's a dangerous fight there, but it's a lose-lose situation for Canelo because Skull is unknown.
There'll be a method to it then. If it is Crawford September, Skull's a southpaw. But you also have to remember, Canelo's bad performances we struggle with is Lara's, was a southpaw, Austin Strout, southpaw. And he did struggle with them. So, Billy Joe, he didn't have it all his own way early doors. I know he got to Billy Joe eventually, but he just seemed to struggle with the southpaw boxers, and it will be interesting to see.
Do you think he's fortunate that Benavidez decided to go up a weight class?
I think he's just... Benavidez, I think, is great. I think he's just had enough of waiting around now. Yeah. He's fully said he'll fight Canelo. He accepted a flat $5 million, and he's chasing Canelo. He's probably done now. He's chasing better be Evan Bivol. And
do you think Canelo ducked Benavidez?
I've seen a couple of things. Robert Garcia saying he'll never lose to a Mexican, and I thought, well, yeah, I probably could agree. But yeah, I think it's a risky fight. It comes to the point what I'm saying, Simon, about pound for pound lists. I can never have that argument with people, because if people stayed in the natural weight divisions, Canelo should only be a 160, maybe a 168. Lomachenko should always be a 130 or a 135. They're going up these weights to add to legacy, and that's why Canelo lost to to Bivol because it was
yeah.
a step too far. He's never ever light heavyweight. He's smaller than me, height-wise. Okay, he's built and he's thick. So was Benavidez a little bit too far because he's huge, Benavidez, and maybe the risk outweighed the rewards at the time. And now everybody wants to see it. Now everybody not knows he's Canelo's threat, but everybody fancies him to beat Canelo. They do now, and
You've been in with him. I mean, I remember talking to Callum about it up front with me and talking about what Canelo does.
Yeah.
What's it like going in against Canelo Alvarez?
For me, it was more his ability, Simon. It was more how good he was, and it was more every mistake you made, every shot you threw and fell short, he punished everything, and it was how relaxed he was. I get asked by the average man on the street now, you fucking Canelo, haven't you? Was he a beast, and was he? And I was like, no, I've probably been punched harder. It was more how good he was that surprised me, how relaxed, and his natural ability was more the eye-opener for me.
When you look at Crawford, I mean, obviously Crawford now, with the recent body of work, you know, the demolition of Errol Spence that no one really saw being as much as a one-way transaction as it was, stepping up to fight Canelo, how do you see that fight going?
What I've just said there, I think it's just a step too far in weight divisions.
You think so, even for Crawford?
Yes, for Crawford. I just think he's not big enough. He's not big enough for 168, and
that's what I think.
I think if push comes to shove, Crawford can still do 147. He's just gone to 154, picked Israel Madrimov to maybe nick a world title, and he didn't look great against Madrimov. And I just think anybody who can still make 147 shouldn't be anywhere near 160, and he's going to 160 because it's Canelo, because he's trying to add a legacy thing for himself, and maybe hoping and praying he's getting Canelo at the right time. He's been pro a long time, Canelo, and maybe he's trying to get him at the right time also.
When you look at this 4-fight deal, can you see Chris Eubank Jr. or Hamza Shiraz being given an opportunity to fight Canelo?
Chris probably more so than Hamza, only on the basis of his name's always been linked and there or thereabouts, and I believe they were in negotiations. And I think if Chris beats Conor, the timelines might match for him to fight him that May next year. Hamza, no, I don't think Hamza will get there just yet.
Right.
I think if Hamza beats Davies, I think they might give him a defence. I just don't. I think he'll miss the boat for Canelo, Hamza.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that Canelo, he'll want the more known fighter in Chris Eubank Jr. Hamza's too dangerous. I'm interested to know your views on it, Simon, actually. With
Hamza might have the chance, Spence, at 168, because they're talking about Hamza's not going to stay at 160 for a long time, and if he maybe wins his world title, they might try and get him and Chris September.
Yeah.
Really?
Hamza and Chris. But if he doesn't get that defence quick, I don't think he'll stay at 160 for a long time.
No, I'm with you. He's outgrowing the weights all the time. He's made that known to us anyway, that is the idea, to move up in weights and whatnot and chase these big fights. What's your views on that, Simon, by the way, as well?
What, Eubank?
Yeah, with the Eubank one, or with Shiraz and with Canelo. Crawford. Do you think Canelo beats Crawford?
I don't think there's a parallel universe where Chris Eubank will step in the ring with Hamza Shiraz.
Yeah.
I think there's too much risk in that fight. I think Shiraz is in a different direction, and I think Eubank wouldn't take it. He'll take Canelo because he'll get paid.
Yeah. I think he's been chasing that, hasn't he?
Well, he's been chasing it because if he got beat by Canelo, no one's going to turn around and make a big fight play out of it. They're going to turn around and say, well, he's a Brit slayer. Yeah. He's done it to everybody else. He's the top of his profession. And at the same time, Chris gets paid a whole bunch of money, which is often his modus operandi, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, you've been in with both of them. If you were to see the opportunity being presented to Eubank Jr., which he would take with Canelo, how would you see that fight?
Canelo. All day, yeah. No questions asked. I think there's nothing that Chris does that phases Canelo, that does Canelo. He doesn't punch hard enough, he doesn't work hard enough, he doesn't, hasn't got the boxing brain. And again, I'm not sitting here just gonna slag Chris Eubank. He's miles and miles and miles apart from Canelo Alvarez.
Doesn't give him any problems at all?
No problem at all. No problems.
Just going back on that, Simon, I was interested in your views on the Terence Crawford. Do you think he has the ability to jump up in weight and beat Canelo Alvarez?
I'm with, for what my opinion's worth, I'm with Liam. I think there are weight classes for a reason. There's a few exceptions. I know you can point to Bernard Hopkins, and I know you can point to Roy Jones Jr., but on the whole, we saw Canelo overreach, and all this bollocks that we were having to listen to, that he was going to go from light heavyweight to cruiserweight. There was a point where it was going to be stopped. And Bivol, you know, who isn't a big puncher, is a hell of a fighter. With due respect to Canelo, schooled him in that weight class, didn't he? And so reality kicks in. And I think if you're going to take a 147 fighter and put him in against a 168 fighter, with things that are happening in boxing and tragedies that I think there's things to be concerned about with that sort of discipline in the first place. And B, I think I don't think you operate at your best. It's like playing a footballer in the wrong position. I mean, ultimately people grow and get physically bigger and the dimensions change, but I don't see Crawford beating Canelo at 168.
I'm sort of thinking slightly different on that, because I do think that he's daring to be great, as fighters do, and they're jumping up through weight divisions and trying to create legacies. But I do actually think he has the ability, style-wise, to beat Canelo.
Where are you on this Jake Paul debate? As much as I feel like having a f***ing Domestos dip every time I have to listen to this YouTuber, fair play to him, commercially brilliant. But this discussion and this ridiculousness of him getting in the ring with Canelo, it's nonsense, isn't it?
Crazy, nonsense, crazy. I remember getting a stick a long time ago, Simon, when I think it was Logan and KSI fought, and there was the big stink over it, and I think Eddie was involved in it, and it was when they made them turn pro and put Towns gloves, and my issue was they're not professionals. Now, if KSI fought Logan Paul in a celebrity matchup, it would still sell whatever arena out. Yeah. The huge names, and I got a lot of sticks saying, you're just jealous because they're earning millions. I was like, they pay for themselves. I couldn't care less. They're not taking no money out of my pocket, but they generate their own money. The huge stars in whatever they do. Now, I didn't understand YouTubers at the time either, but they had all their own fans. Now, if you said that was a celebrity boxing matchup or a white collar, probably still sold the same amount of tickets and still sold the same amount of views. So just don't insult us, if that makes sense. So saying, you're Logan Paul, you're not a professional boxer, you're awful. You're never, ever going to be a professional boxer, but that was what I was directed it towards. They're not pro boxers, they're just...
I mean, your mate's jumped into this now, and Darren Till, he's jumped into this, like...
I think the misfit side to it now is different.
That's sort of like crossing over a little bit, though. Like, if the fight come up... I'll give you an example. Like, if you got offered a fight against Logan or whatever, you would jump at that, right?
Of course,
ultimately, it's prize fighting. It's money.
It is, but I would jump at it because I would just think, wow, that's easy money. And I'd just be dead... I'm being dead straight. I think, wow, that's easy money.
Right, Liam, let's talk about you. Let's start with a slightly regressive step in terms of the second fight against Eubank Jr. Yeah. Walk me through that rematch.
It was just a nightmare from start to finish for me, Sam. Hindsight's a great thing, and obviously when we announced the rematch for June 17th, we had the press conference Tuesday, the gloves are off on Thursday, Friday in the gym, I'd done me back, and horrendous, couldn't walk straight, I was lopsided. I had to go through all the process of... So I pulled out, got sent for MRIs, Eubank's team wanted I had to go and have an MRI scan after Dr. Eubank's team imposed on me, and I had a bulge on my disc, and the rematch then got announced for July, which was never ever agreed, as if I was going to pull out of a fight in June and be ready for July with the back injury I had. So they forced the date upon me September the 2nd. It was one day over the contract extension for Eubank with Boxer. It got very messy. Like, if I don't take this fight, my contract void, and I'll be took to court. And look, hindsight's great. I wish I called the bluff now because I'd won the first fight. I should have just pulled out the set. But I thought, you know what? If I do the weight, I'll knock him out again. I'll beat him again. And that was it. That was what I thought. And that was my process going in. And obviously, I'd done the weight and got in the ring, and I just had absolutely nothing in the tank, and that was it. And I thought, adrenaline, the crowd, I'll beat him again. And I didn't, and no one paid a bigger price than me. I got slaughtered of people, and I already got stitched up for the rematch anyway off Boxer. I'm not Chris Eubank Jr. I've got less money to fight him again. It just doesn't make sense. But no one paid a bigger price than me, and that was just the whole issue of the.
Is that why? I mean, I know I've seen that you've had a few swipes at Ben Shalom. I mean, they put you into the first fight. Why? I mean, is it simply the commercial discussions that you had with Boxer that, in the end, brought about the end of your relationship with them?
Yeah, it was just a lot of things that was not what was said that never got stuck to. I didn't like a lot of things that went on regarding the rematch. I didn't like the fact that, you know, a conversation that we had got forgot about, and it was like never ever really got had about the rematch clause. You know, a conversation was, do you want a rematch clause? So we sit and talk numbers. Said, yeah, okay, we'll talk numbers. I beat him once, I'll beat him again. And then the rematch got put to me that, oh no, we'll use the option we've got on you as the rematch clause. And it was the conversation we had got forgot about. And like I said, who knocks Chris Eubank Jr. out, who's never been knocked out before, and fight him again for less money? That doesn't make sense, and no one would ever believe that if I told them that, but that happened.
But how do you get, I mean, I'm not wishing to defend Ben in that situation, but how do you get yourself in a situation, it's your commercial discussion, you're the one that's doing your own contract, how do you get yourself in a situation where you're getting less money, given the fact that you're now the person going into that fight with the win?
It was also clever on his behalf, but and maybe silly on my behalf, but he used the option that was in a contract, has the rematch, but like I say, totally forgot the phone call. Look, do you want a rematch clause in? We can sit and talk numbers. I said yes. We discussed the numbers, obviously, after the fight, and that never ever happened. But
you're not with him anymore, so it's probably academic.
Oh, of course, yeah. I'm not.
Who are you with now?
I'm just with Matchroom.
Okay.
I'm back with Matchroom, yeah. You know what?
Is it a long-term deal or?
I've got a two-fight deal, but you know, everything is on the basis of winning. You know, I lose a fight, I'm done, Spencer. I'm 36 now.
You were just going to fight Josh Kelly, weren't you? What happened with that?
I had a great camp after the injury. I got over my injury. I had a very good camp, and you know, I was in very good shape for the Josh Kelly fight. And I just, you know, I got a virus and got sick, and it was only a week before. So once bitten, twice shy after the Eubank performance. If I never had the Eubank rematch the way it went,
you might take another risk.
I would have took the risk on it. I definitely would have. I know the character I am. I definitely would have. But I could never ever be remembered. I could never go out like that. I've already took enough stick for the Eubank rematch, and you know, Eubank Jr. 1, I was 35. I was great. I was fit. I was athletic. Eubank 2, I had a stink of a performance. I'm finished. You know, it doesn't make, with no miles in between.
World, you know,
that is the world, and that's why I've got thick skin, and that's why it's time for me to prove that. I've always been a naturally fit person. I live a clean life. I don't take drugs and, you know, stuff like that. I play football.
You get sent off in football matches, don't you?
Yeah, I got sent off.
That's just his hot head, mate. Listen,
I got sent off Friday, didn't I?
You've got an opponent here who's a young guy who hasn't got a big name, a big profile. He's coming through and he's a dangerous guy.
He is.
Good fighter, relentless, 19-0, Aaron McKenna. I mean, who chose that fight and how did that materialise? And you know, what do you benefit from that?
There's just pros and cons to it, but that sums up the, again, without, you know, blowing my own trumpet, I've took on everyone at every level. Everyone's been put towards me, and going on about Chisora before. I've been cut from the same cloth. Everyone that's been put to me, even now, I'm fighting an unbeaten kid who's 25, 26 years of age, on the rise after being out the ring for nearly over 16 months and coming off the performance I'm coming off the back of. But make no marks about it. I'll put in a performance that I should have done against Eubank in the rematch, and I'll make you think he's not finished yet, and that's why. Another reason why I've took it, and I'm not in a position. I don't need warm-up fights. I'm 36. I've been pro a long time, and I think Aaron McKenna's a star that's made for me. I won't have to chase Aaron McKenna around the ring. He's big. He comes to fight, but it'll be his downfall because he's very green, shall we say. And I think it'll play into my hands. Yeah, massively. Look, you can match me with... I said after I beat Anthony Fowler, along the lines of, you can match me with a number of fighters who were on that bill at the time. I was 154. I fought Fowler, JJ Metcalf fought Kieran Conway, Troy Williamson fought Ted Cheeseman, all 154s. Match me with any of them at the time. They're very good fighters for 4, 5, 6 rounds. Aaron McKenna will be very competitive for 5, 6 rounds. But then experience and know-how will take its toll, and I'll take over from then.
What's the roadmap for you? You come through that one, because obviously you're going to be wanting title shots straight away. That you're going to be chasing the bigger names. Have you got any idea of the roadmap?
I said I was never ever going to give anyone leeway and anyone a green light to think, like, messing around, you leave him. He hasn't fought for that long. So once I win, I'll be very vocal about who I want and what way I want to go, and a lot of it will be towards, you know, the top of the bill on that. I think I'm on that show maybe for a reason. If the winner doesn't get them big fights they deserved or the big fights we spoke about, but once I win, I'll then start mentioning names. I'm not going to mention names now because it gives them a little bit of a green light to think, see you later, he hasn't boxed for so long.
Is there an end goal this year? I mean, you want to be successful. Do you see yourself, honestly, being able to get a shot at a world title anytime soon?
I do with the middleweights, the way they've gone, the way the division is at the moment. I definitely do. You know, I beat Chris in the first fight. I was mandatory for Johnny Beck right away because of my good ranking. Now, I think if I win now, look, again, I'd give every penny I've got in the bank to have a Eubank Junior 3 fight. You know, that eats away at me every night. And
seems like the obvious fight, though, doesn't it? If you both,
I think it's possible with me going on the undercard, with me.
Yeah, it's probably adds insult to injury, doesn't it? That you're sitting on their undercard.
It does, yeah, it does. Like I said, and especially the numbers I made and they're getting is just. Yeah. But obviously, like I said, I know I would never get that anyway. That's through the names and what have you. But I do think it's more realistic now with me being on the bill with the Riyadh season involved in it. Look, you know, Riyadh season's working, you just need dance partners. And that's all Turki Alalshikh's bothered about. He's not like wanting to sign Liam Smith. He's not wanting to sign, you know, names. He's just, you put a fight to him, look, we'll make Chris v. Conor, yeah, I'll have that. And he'll probably put a figure out and he'll pay for it. And that's the figure that the promoters have got to work to. And that's where even with chief supports and maybe undercard fights. And that's what I knew what was going on with the Wembley show where I was meant to be on the Josh Kelly fight. You know, I was talking to Eddie and I was talking to Frank Warren and they kind of pulled their deals off the table for me once Turkey had okayed me v Josh on that bill, because nobody really wants to upset the apple cart, and once he's give us okay for the show, he wants that fight on the bill. So that's what I mean. I think if I win, I'm back in the mix. There's a number of dance partners for me. And
does it have to be winning a certain way, or does it just get the job done?
No, I do think you've got to win a certain way now. It's a shot window for this, only because of the Turki Alalshikh, the Riyadh season. Yeah. I think everything's shot windows at the moment. Look, for me, take that out of it. I need to just win to announce I'm back. But I also do think I need to win and look good to get myself, the saying winner stays on the Riyadh season bills and what have you. But we all know what it means. You see now, Turki Alalshikh took a shine to Mark Chamberlain because he liked the fight he was involved in. Yeah. And there was all talks that if he beats Padley, he was fighting for a world title, which he was never ever ready for, but because he liked the style, he liked the fight he was in, I'm confident he'll like my style. You mentioned it a moment ago, the Ben Eubank fight. Where are you on that fight? How do you think that one goes? I think it's a closer fight now than I mentioned. Like when it first got made, obviously before I fought Chris, I just, going back to Crawford and Canelo, Conor Benn's next fight should be at 147. So he's not big enough for 160. I think my fight with Chris plays a big part in Conor fighting at 160. Right. You're forgetting, well, you're not forgetting. I mean, people probably forget that Conor had the pull and power last time to make the fight at 157. When he failed the drug test, he lost that. It was going to be all 160. So I think my performance with Chris in the first fight makes Conor, they probably haven't even argued about 157 this time round. They probably thought the 160 is okay. Yeah. I know they've put the rehydration clause in, but I do think it is a closer fight now than I thought before I fought Chris. Who did you pick before? I picked Chris. I still pick Chris now. I pick Chris on points now, but I won't be surprised if Conor catches Chris and, you know, I'll be, oh my God, Conor Benn knocked Chris Eubank out and the shoe on the other foot. I won't be surprised if Chris stops Conor. Conor's been down before off littler people than Chris. So I won't be surprised either way. Either of these two got a world title in their immediate future. I mean, Billy Joe Saunders said to me in his inimitable way, not why he's got a hole in his arse, will Chris Eubank Jr. win a world title. Where are you on either one of those, winning a world title at whichever weight class that Conor ends up fighting in after this fight? Yeah, look, I think Conor's got more of a chance than Chris at 147. I don't think Barrios is a world beater. I think Conor's on the verge of fighting. I think that is a very, very winnable fight for Conor. I don't think Conor wins a world title at 160. So And I think Chris is a long way off at 160 because of the champions now. You know, you've got Johnny Beck, who's the best of the bunch by a long stretch at the moment. Hamza's fighting Carlos Adames, so that you could say that's more of a winnable one for Chris. But you ask me now, Chris v Adames, I pick Adames. Chris v Hamza, I pick Hamza.
Yeah.
So
that's
do you think Conor going up to 160 will be able to make 147 again? Because I think he was quite big at 147 anyway. And you know what it's like when you go up in weight and come back down.
I think through one camp, I don't think Conor's going to put a lot of muscle on to then not get back to 147.
Can he be walking it? His dad told me, in no unequivocal terms, Nigel, that my son walks around at 175. Is that right? Because I mean, I saw Conor at Christmas 18 months ago, and he didn't look 12 and a half stone to me.
Terence Crawford posted saying today that he was
186. 186. I've seen it. 186.
Yeah.
And I was working the
possible.
I was working the number. Yeah, definitely. I don't think that's like wow, Conor Ben's walking around, because that's. So what's that? That's a
12 and a half stone.
Yeah, but that's easy doable, I think.
That's a light heavy.
Yeah, no, but the fighters do that.
It's a 2 stone. Yeah, it's a 2 stone drop, which again I think Conor's not the type to walk. That's what I'm on about with Chris with this rehydration clause. I think it may be an issue now.
Right.
Before maybe 12 months, 18 months ago, Chris is not the type. I had the first head-to-head with Chris to announce the first fight.
Yeah.
He was in not far off the shape he was in when we had the weigh-in.
Right.
10 weeks later.
So he walks around like
and
that.
I was a total different. Now, people have got different bodies. I don't think Chris carries a lot of fat. He finds it hard to cut weight, but also doesn't put a lot back on. The people who put a lot of weight back on are the people who lose a lot of weight. Yep. And people's body types are different. You've seen Canelo. I remember thinking it was a bit of a... I knew when I fought Canelo, Simon, I put 16 pounds on after a weigh-in. Now, I remember thinking, it's a bit of a myth, Canelo, 25. You know, if he puts 20 on, which is a lot, I put 16 on, I wasn't bothered. But then when we got in the ring, I thought, you have put 25 on. You have put 25 on. He had the Under Armour t-shirt on that was bursting off him. And it was only as he took the robe off. Now, I didn't think, but I just thought, wow, you have put that weight on. And it was like just the saying a sponge. I was so confident at the weigh-in. I remember just thinking, right. And obviously, my whole process with the Canelo fight was like Cotto Margarito. I just thought, he won't hurt me, he won't budge me. And after 6, he's going to find it hard to get back to 154, which he stripped naked at the weigh-in. I thought I'll break him late on, and that was, I knew I was never going to match him for ability, but I just thought, right, you won't budge me, and I'll break you late on. And then at the weigh-in, I still had the same thoughts. I just thought, right, I'm a bigger man than you. And then, obviously, in the ring, he was like a barrel from the side, and I just thought, you have put 25 pounds on.
So, big news. Queensberry, big promotion, April the 5th. Another big set of fight cards. Dillian Whyte, Joyce.
Yep.
Anthony Kakachi versus Lee Wood. And a fight that was long in the making, potentially in another division, in the cruiserweight division, which was Richard Riakporhe versus Lawrence Okolie. Last time we saw those two, they were rolling around in the cinema. We've got Richard Riakporhe. Let's have a see what he has to say about it all. Richard, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. How you doing, guys?
Good. So, this long-awaited fight between you and Lawrence Okolie finds itself in a different division, but notwithstanding that, a fascinating fight. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, very excited. I've got a big opportunity on my hands and I'm grabbing it with both hands.
It's a difficult fight for you moving straight up into the heavyweight division. Lawrence he's had that fight up at heavyweight now, so he's sort of like, he knows what it is, he knows what the weight advantages are all about. I mean, talk to us, was you struggling to make cruiserweight, and what was the reason for you jumping up straight away and taking such a dangerous fight in your first fight at heavyweight?
Yeah, it was really tough. I remember just having to take off like 15 kgs, just to make the cruiserweight limit. And it was taking a toll on me. I just knew I couldn't do it forever. In my mind, I only had like 2 fights left in my mind that I wanted to do. I wanted to do the CBS, and then I wanted to do Opataya. But obviously it didn't materialize. I ended up doing the CBS and moving up. So just been basically filling out in the meantime.
I mean, how are you doing, Richard? I mean, obviously the fight at Selhurst Park, which would have been a sort of homecoming for you, didn't go the way it was anticipated, and accusations about what you brought to that fight were that you froze on the night. When you look now back on that fight, and you've now moved up to another division, what lessons are you taking from the loss at cruiserweight in a fight that you would have wanted at Selhurst Park because it would have meant so much to you because of your relationship with Crystal Palace? What are you taking away that you're going to bring into the heavyweight division with a whole new set of challenges for you?
There's many different things that I've taken. It's just my whole setup. I changed a lot of things. I'm training with Billy Nelson now.
Right.
I'm up in Scotland. He's been an asset to me so far. I changed my mindset to understand what this is about. I understand, it's all good winning, but it's a different feeling when you lose, and never wanted to feel that again. And just taking things to another level in so many different ways. And yeah, just more hungry for more opportunities and to really propel.
When you look at, I know you don't want to talk about it too much, but I just want to dig at, just for a second, the big thing that I've always understood about you, and I was speaking to one of your close friends who talked about mentoring you, and I think it was at the Glowacki fight where you knocked him out in 3 rounds, and everyone talked about your mindset and the fact that if you believe in yourself, when you believe in yourself, then you can wreak havoc. Where are you in that process, Richard? Because a lot of debate was had about how much you believed in yourself against CBS. But going up to heavyweights, it presents a whole different set of challenges for you now. So where are you in your mindset on the back of a loss?
Yeah, I feel like I've kind of put that behind me. I've taken out what I need to take out from that whole experience. And now I'm at a stage where I have no choice but to believe in myself. It's without the belief, I shouldn't be in the ring. You know what I mean? And I've always had that type of belief in me, and not just me, but a lot of people around me. And it's always been reinforced. I feel like if you don't believe in yourself as a fighter, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be competing.
No tune-up fight. Coley's gone in. He's had one fight, knocked a fellow out in the first round. So he's laid his claim for being in the heavyweight division. He's now ranked 2 or 3 in the WBC. Whether you agree with that or not is a different matter. But no tune-up fight for you at all in the heavyweight division. Is that a risk-reward scenario for you?
Yeah, it's a risk. I think everything is a risk. I feel like I'm at a stage where I have to take risks, and with risks, come big rewards, if it all pans out. Lawrence Okole's had one tune-up fight, but it only lasted 1 round. So nobody really understands what he's really capable of at the weight, or how, let's say, dangerous he is with 1 round. Prior to that, he had 1 round against the Bridgerweight from Poland. Mm-hmm. So it's just practically 2 rounds since the loss against Chris Smith. We don't know how he's going to look after if it goes longer than 4 rounds. Nobody really knows, and the same as me, nobody knows how I'm going to do. So it's still pretty much like fresh on both sides. Well,
look, good luck. As always, I will be wanting you to do well for various reasons. Of course, because we share a mutual love of Crystal Palace. But good luck, and we'll watch out for you, mate.
Good luck,
Thank
mate.
you, man. Appreciate it. Cheers, guys.
We just spoke to Richard, obviously. He's going straight in with Lawrence as I make the point. The fact that it's Lawrence probably is because the economics work for them both, because of the so-called dislike they have of one another. When you look at this fight, there's been criticism of Lawrence. He has been poor in recent fights. He stepped up to the heavyweight division. He's done his job, and he did it impressively. Yeah. And we talk about the idea that his big struggle was about weight. I would suggest some of it was about style as well. Mm-hmm. When you look at this fight, how do you boys see it going? Well,
it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's up at heavyweight. Like I said, I spoke to Lawrence about this and the struggles that he was having to make cruiserweight. And listen, you'll be able to explain it better than anyone with the struggles of weight making. Is like that psychologically plays in your mind, doesn't it? And the punch resistance does go because, when you strip down that weight, the cushioning from the brain goes and whatnot. You feel those shots. It's like someone's hitting you with an iron bar. And I think that's why the negative performances were coming from Lawrence, because it becomes so difficult. He's a big frame, a big guy, and he says he's going to fill out. And I think his mindset will be different in that. Richard Riakporhe would be. That's why I asked him the question. I think it might be a similar case. This is a great fight, and you just don't know how that's going to go with that added weight.
No, you don't. I think it's a great fight. It would have been a great fight at cruiserweight. I think it's a great fight now. It'd be interesting to ask Richard, would you have had a tune-up fight if it wasn't Lawrence? Because obviously, you know Lawrence's not long come from cruiser himself. They're both.
Which is kind of what he said as well, didn't he? He said he's had a couple of rounds, he's had a bridgerweight fight.
When you do slip it down like that, he had one fight in Poland to win the bridgerweight title. So he has only had 2 rounds since losing to Bill Smith himself. So it'd be interesting to know, would Richard have had a tune-up fight at heavyweight if it wasn't Lawrence?
Well, it's an interesting debate on both sides, isn't it? Because ultimately, whoever loses this fight puts their heavyweight career in jeopardy very early in the making of it. Because Riakporhe comes off the back of a loss to Chris Bill Smith. If he loses to a Coley who's a rival, people think, where's that going? If a Coley does the same thing, I suspect that both of them think they're getting one another at the right time for various reasons. And also, there's a bit of dough around this fight because of the rivalry and the jeopardy of it.
Of course, and heavyweight being the pinnacle of the sport, and I think we're in a changing of the times era where we've got all the older heavyweights, your Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, they all look like they're going to be going, and the cruiserweights, you've got Jai Opetaia, who we've talked about, who's going to be big enough. Will he be big enough to go up and dominate at the heavyweights? They all seem to be moving up, all these bigger guys, because they're going to know that's where it's at. Moses Atuma, who's not a particularly big heavyweight either, so it sort of fits into, it could be, a new generation.
He will be a bigger heavyweight, won't he? Because he's growing.
19, isn't he?
Talking about adversities, we've got 2 fighters going in for different reasons with adversities. One of them because they've caught themselves in the way of controversy, and one of them because they've been stopped in a couple of fights, which is Joe Joyce versus Dillian Whyte. How do you guys see this fight going out?
It's a good fight, to be fair. It's a very good fight, because they're matched at that they're on level paths.
That's why I think that's why it's a great fight. It's a perfect matchup at a perfect time for both of them.
It's a tough call.
Back in the mix.
It really is a tough call, that, because you look at, none of them are coming off great performances. Joe Joyce against against Derek Chisora, he looked slow and cumberless, and Dillian Whyte didn't look particularly great in his last performance either. He struggled to overcome his opponent. It's an interesting one.
It's hard with the heavyweights because you always just think, the one big win away from being back in the mix, but
for them two, I think they're one loss away from the end of their careers.
That was my next. The loser of that, you can't see carrying on. The loser, you didn't know whether Joe Joyce was going to retire now after
it's difficult
Chisora.
to see. I mean, if Joe Joyce were to lose to Dillian Whyte, irrespective of the fact that Dillian Whyte was a former world title contender and that's had a pretty good career, to be honest. After losing to Derek, there's no disrespect in that, but after losing twice to Zhilei Zhang, I think that Joe Joyce's race is run.
I agree.
In terms of real serious, significant opportunities.
I think Dillian's exactly the same as well. That's why it's a great matchup. I think that it may pull out the best of both of them because they know that a loss here for either one of these guys is the end at top flight, and I think that might be
Who do you think wins? I'm Dillian Whyte.
I think Dillian Whyte myself, yeah. Whyte.
I'm not so sure, mate. I'm just a tough one because Joe Joyce has got a good engine and he will go out there, but Dillian's heavy-handed. Yeah, maybe I'll go with you guys, maybe Dillian.
Right, good original thinking. Right, well, that's it for episode 107 of Talk Boxing. Thanks to Spencer, thanks to Liam, and we'll see you guys next time we're out.